What it do? What it do? What it do? Really do? All right, peeps. We were going to talk about the 1980s. Now, these are going to be the 1980s things that are not socially accepted today. Shout out to all my 80s babies. I'm going to draw some comparison to the time that I grew up and see how it compares to the 80s. Now, there is one thing I will tell you that's in this one. It's something called latchkey kids. If you don't know what a latchkey kid is, let's get into it.
40 years ago, things were very different. MTV was just catching on, and
Shout out to MTV.
Atari was still very popular. We didn't have all the constant news in our
Shout out to Pac-Man. Never played it, but
face, but our social media was hanging out with friends and family. Some of the things we used to do would probably get you arrested now.
woo, yep. Or canceled.
Safety standards in cars were pretty well absent.
Yeah.
The regulations were more like mild suggestions.
I remember seeing a car like that in real life. That is a weird ass damn car. I'm not gonna lie, even today's standards. I mean, you got everything manual. I mean, look at the little window lever. You manually had to roll the window down. That's crazy.
Rather than rules or laws. Nobody wore seatbelts.
No. And the seatbelts used to look just like that. GM. Nobody wore them. Now, I did wear mine, but yeah.
People just wondered why they were even there. As a kid, you could sit in the middle of the...
Ooh, that was the best thing, too, sitting in the middle and control the video. And right there in the middle, they would have a separate seatbelt for you, too. And even the seatbelts, it was kind of weird because they didn't come from, like, the top. They all came from, like, the side. So you would just buckle up like this. They didn't have nothing to keep you from going forward like this. But I will also say too, these cars, they didn't really go that fast. I mean, most of them, I know the speedometer may like say like 100, 110, 120 miles, but I think the most that they would go would be like 85, 90. 90, and I don't think they even went that far. And I think if you did try to push it that far, you would have some engine trouble.
bench seat up front and control the radio.
Yep.
If you wanted to see over the tall dash, then you could just simply stand up. Heck, Dad may have even placed you in his lap so you could help him steer the car.
Yep.
It was also common to see kids just packed in the back of a station wagon or...
Listen, station wagon or a truck. Man, I remember driving a station wagon. Me, my cousin, and another guy, we was back in the back of this damn station wagon. It had a little top and everything. It was funny. I'm not gonna lie, it was very uncomfortable. And I was like, I don't know how the hell y'all do this. But the pickup truck, oh yeah, we just ride in the back of the pickup truck all the time, Pete.
Maybe in the bed of a pickup truck.
Yep.
Car seats were available for purchase, but rarely would you ever see one in a car.
I don't think I ever was in a car seat, to be honest with you. I mean, maybe I was, but I don't never ever recall seeing my mom with a car seat. But maybe I was in one.
If your car was packed with kids, then...
That's exactly how we be looking. That's how we would be looking, Pete. We would literally be in the back of the station wagon. And you know what's funny? I had an cousin whose dad had a station wagon. Only people that had station wagons were dads. If you wasn't a dad, you didn't have no station wagon.
And it was usually easier just to leave them in the car and then go into the grocery store and shop.
Yep.
Most people just left the
windows down. I'm gonna say something too. I don't understand where the hell this came from the point where parents are forgetting their children in the car. Like, that don't even make sense to me. And it could just be because of the fact that we're in this whole social media age where everybody is more concerned about likes and views and attention and all this other stupid shit that don't matter, and not focus on their family. That's what I'm thinking is happening. That's just me. But yeah, back in the day, we used to just sit there in the car. Our parents would go in the store. I'll be right back. Was usually meant to be in there for about 15, 20 minutes. We would just be chilling in the car. It's 90 degrees outside. Be chilling. Peace. We just be chilling. So I don't know what happened. I don't know whether I don't know what's going on where you got parents forgetting their children in the car. I don't get that. To me, it sounds more like we're focusing on the wrong stuff and not focusing on what we need to be focused on, which should be your family. So I don't know.
And the kids would be just fine. Kids were very active, and it wasn't uncommon just to tell your parents you were going outside to play, and then you would disappear for most of the day.
Yeah. Listen, there have been times that I would literally I'd be like, I'm going outside, and I'll be gone, and I wouldn't even be outside. I'll be like everywhere else. I come strolling back in about 8 o'clock at night. Listen, and you know what's funny? This is the same thing that happened in the 70s. So there's not a whole lot of change from the 70s and 80s either. So
if not all of it. It was always easy to tell where all the neighborhood kids were.
The lights on the bike, I remember having like 3 lights. Ooh, you know one thing I did have on my bike? I actually well, I had to get my mom to get this, but I bought a speedometer. It was an actual speedometer. Setting that thing up was just crazy, peeps. It was freaking crazy trying to get that thing set up. So there was like these two magnets. There was like a magnet you put on the spokes, and then there was like another little deal that you had to attach to the fork, and that little small deal on the fork had to be aligned and close to the magnet for it to read. It was not the easiest thing to do, but I did eventually finally get it to work because it looked like I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think the magnets were that powerful, and that might be why. But I did eventually get it to work, and it worked really good. It told you your speed and everything, how many miles you've gone, and all of that. The lights, I didn't have lights like that, but my lights was on the top of the bar. But it was a pretty bright. It was a brighter light than that.
Just by glancing at someone's yard and seeing the collection of bicycles. If that wasn't seen, then most of the kids would knock on their friend's door to see if they were home and if they wanted to come out and play. If you went around riding bikes, then you certainly didn't wear a helmet. Most people couldn't even see these in stores to buy, and if you could, they wouldn't have even wanted them.
I will say, back in the day, helmets were pretty expensive. I know it's gonna be sound weird because of today's market, but helmets back in the day were like, just to get a cheap little helmet was like $10. And I know y'all like, well, that's not that much. Back in that day, back in my time frame, $10 was a lot. Like I will tell you right now, me and my mom could buy just me and my mom both eating different types of foods. She could literally go to the store to this week and buy like $40 worth of groceries. Might scrape by 45 because I wanted some extra stuff. Today, if she tried to shop for me and what I wanted and what she wanted, she'd be paying damn near 90 damn dollars for it. It's crazy.
Same thing with elbow pads and knee pads. Most kids just thought it was cool to show off your latest injury or skinned knee.
And I would say they didn't even have knee pads or elbow pads. Like if you could find them, that cool. Helmets, like I said, they cost too much. They was like 10, and I'm telling you, that's the cheapest I've seen them. Just to get a good helmet, you're looking at spending at least $17, $20 for. Average, they average around like 20, 25. The most expensive one I've seen was like 40, and I don't even know what was special about that one. I think that one was made out of different material.
If you happen to...
And another reason why we didn't wear helmets too is if you ever wore one of those helmets. Now I don't know about the ones today, but the ones back in the day, they actually covered your ears a little bit, to protect your ears. But it was hot. They were sweaty. They would have this little foam pad that made it even hotter and sweatier. There have been times where I've had my helmet on, and I would be my whole head would just be pouring down sweat. It's crazy.
To be too far from home too late, then no problem. Find one of the payphones that were all over the place, and if you didn't have change, then that wasn't a problem.
Peeps, I don't know about that. Matter of fact, I'm gonna be honest with you. We've had payphones like this, never used them. I'll take that back. I have used them on 3 separate occasions, but not in my hometown.
Either. Your parents knew when they got the collect call.
You have a collect call from.
I'm at the community center.
Do you accept charges?
Peeps, collect calls. Listen to me. Hail Mary. So let me tell you how collect calls worked. So I know y'all like confused out there. Okay. Back in the day, you had something called long distance. And what was long distance? That meant that you could only call. So if you had a phone at home, you could only call people in your city. Now, if you lived in like a Dallas or a Houston, I'm not for sure if it was just the Houston region or if you could call within the suburbs of Houston. I know at one point it used to be the suburbs of Houston that you could call. And then if you had a call outside of that, it was long distance. So the whole idea with collect calls was you would have these payphones, and these payphones did not allow for long distance calling. So your alternative to that would be the collect call. Now the collect call was a 1-900 number. And let me tell you something. 1-900 numbers was a big no-no to dial at home. Why? Here's the difference. We still had 1-800 numbers. But there was also something called, before they banned it, this is by the FTC, they banned the 900 numbers. But the 1-900 numbers are the ones that cost money. And I will tell you, a lot of people that called, what was that psychic's name? Miss Cleo. She's a prime example of why they banned the 1-900 calls, because you dial that number, you have to literally pay per minute, like a percentage, a couple of cents. So it was usually like 50 cents. Sometimes it was up to like 70 cents, depending on what it is that you're calling for. So the 1-800 collect, it was 1-800 collect. That was a number. It was 1-800 collect. But what they would do is they would connect your call to wherever you're trying to connect it to. And then the only way that the call would go through is if the receiver answered the call and accepted the charges. They had to press 1 or 2 to accept or not accept. If they accept the charges, then they would connect, and then you would start talking, but you had to pay per cent. I don't know how, it was 10 cents a minute from what I remember. When I remember, it was 10 cents a minute. I know it went up a little bit to like 15 cents a minute, but it was generally like 10 cents a minute, which was fine because a lot of times when we had a call, like I said, you only used it for like pay phones. You didn't really use it for like home phones, because home phones had a long distance plan that you could enroll in. But anyways, how they did it right there, that's usually what we would do back in the day. Now, I've never done it because I didn't have to do this, but I know some people would call 1-800 collect, and they would say things like, I'm at like I said, the rec center. And when their parents pick up the phone, they automatically knew it was their child just because of what they said. So, yeah.
Your mom and dad would just come and pick you up and load up the bikes if you had them.
Yep.
Otherwise, your parents just expected you to be home by the time the street
lights come on. Yep.
Smoking was still very big, and parents smoked in the home and in
the car. I'm going to tell you like this. I had my family members smoke in the car. I couldn't stand that smoke. I couldn't stand it. I don't know how I'm alive, how I don't have like issues with my health and lungs. But yeah, I was around a lot of smoke. My mom didn't smoke. It was just some of my family members that smoked. And it was considered cool back in the day, believe it or not.
With kids still in it. Secondhand smoke was just something that everyone had to
deal with.
Yeah. Most people weren't worried about exposing it to.
And they had cigarette ads. They were kind of interesting.
Kids. It wasn't uncommon to see people just smoking away in restaurants.
Yep.
And most of them probably didn't even have smoking sections. Things were so different back then that there were cigarette machines in front of some stores.
That's another thing too, peeps. I'm gonna tell you something. They had vending machines just like this where you put in your money. A lot of times they were like I don't know how it was like $2 and $2.50 sometimes. Now it looks like there was some popular brands. A lot of the brands that they had were kind of not so popular. But yeah, sometimes, and he's probably gonna mention this. Maybe if he don't, I will tell you. We were the ones that went out and bought the cigarettes. Yeah, we did. We would literally have to go down to whatever gas station, whatever store, buy the cigarettes for our parents. Um, if it was a store, sometimes we would have to. Well, it depends. There's two sides of this. Okay, usually we would have like a note, and it would be a handwritten note from the parent, and they would send their kids down to a store to get the cigarettes. And then what would happen is the store would have to call the house, your parents, just to confirm that, hey, I got this kid down here saying that you want some cigarettes. Is that correct? And they would say, yeah, I sent him down there, right? Just to verify. The other thing too is that back in the day, if you was in a smaller town like me, sometimes your parents knew the owner of the actual store that you go to. And so, with that being said, and the workers knew you, so then your parents would just send you down there to get whatever the cigarettes. Now we couldn't get the beer, but we could get the cigarettes. We just couldn't get the beer. Um, but they would send us down there to get that. And then the other thing too is that back in the day, and a lot of people don't know this, and they don't do this now, but a lot of these little small mom and pop shops, your parents would be like friends sometimes, or like have a bond with those people to the point where you could actually set up a tab. And this has happened with my cousin. His mom knew the owner of, or both owners of the this little convenience store. And so we would just be able to just freely go down there and pick, get whatever we need to get. And then she would pay that tab every week. Now there was like a limit up to like $50 and stuff. But yeah, that's what we used to do. Like that's how much trust we were had as a kid to be able to do stuff like that.
And restaurants. No ID check or anything.
Nope.
Just insert the quarters and
yep.
pull the knob.
Yep.
It was also a time when kids would run to the convenience store and pick up some essentials. Sometimes those essentials were cigarettes, and all we needed was a note from mom or dad and a blank check.
Yep, that's pretty much. Now I don't know about the check part, because I don't know, that checks weren't really that popular back then. At least not with anyone I knew. Everybody had cash. But yeah, you just type a note.
Considering how most people were about smoking, it's not surprising that alcohol would be much different. Alcohol wasn't something that kids enjoyed, but I'm sure many tasted it just to see what it was like when parents offered it.
I would say I never actually had it as a kid, so I could. But I did have it when I was in college. My sophomore year in college, when I turned 21. That's, I don't know. Like, I'm surprised I can even drink beer today, like I do. Back in college, blah. But I know a lot of kids that used to just drink. That's how you do. That's how you get them. Make sure that they don't drink beer. Have them drink it as a kid. They won't like it, and then that way they grow up not knowing that, hey, I don't need to drink no beer.
Being a latchkey kid was perfectly fine.
There you go, latchkey kid. So let me explain. Well, I'm gonna let him explain it. I was a latchkey kid, so I'm gonna let him explain what a latchkey kid is, peeps.
Parents were busy working and doing other things, so it was quite common to see kids at home by themselves or watching younger siblings until they got home. Parents just thought if kids were old enough to dial the important numbers or 911, they were responsible enough to be at home alone.
All right, let's go back to the people in the back. For the people in the back, let me start this. Let's go back for the people in the back. I was a latchkey kid. So I'm going to explain to y'all. I'm going to let him explain to y'all what a latchkey kid is.
He tasted it just to see what it was like when parents offered it. Being a latchkey kid was perfectly fine. Parents were busy.
Okay. So, latchkey kid. Just know that I was a latchkey kid.
Being a latchkey kid was perfectly fine. Parents were busy working and doing other things, so it was quite common to see kids at home by themselves or watching younger siblings until they got home.
Yep.
Parents just thought if kids were old enough to dial the important numbers or 911, they were responsible enough to be at home alone.
Okay. So that's basically what I was. I was a latchkey kid. And ultimately, I will tell you, it wasn't just me. It was a lot of my peers. We're talking like even as early as third grade, people were at home by themselves. We were very responsible. If you was a single kid like myself, who didn't have any brothers and sisters, it was even better. If you had siblings, it was actually even more better. Most likely, you was probably at home by yourself for when you was in the second grade because you probably had an older brother. Unfortunately for me, I didn't get to be at home by myself until fourth grade. Um, Summertime in the fourth grade, and then I got my key that fall in the fourth grade. So, but yeah, I was a latchkey kid, peeps. So maybe y'all now know when I was born. All right.
Physical punishment was also something that was viewed very differently. Paddling or swats from parents, family, or teachers was considered completely reasonable if the kids misbehaved or were disrespectful.
I would tell you they probably need to bring that back. I guarantee if they bring that back, you would see you wouldn't have no school shootings. But we're not gonna get into that.
Punishment was usually swift and painful.
Yeah.
Peanut allergies certainly were around back then, but kids still brought peanut butter sandwiches and peanut products to school. Peanut and other allergy bans weren't a thing. EpiPens didn't hit the market until 1987, so if you had an allergy, you just had to hope you didn't die.
Yeah. I don't remember anyone that had a peanut allergy. I've heard about that back in my time, but I don't know nobody that actually had that.
If you were a teenager in the 1980s, then you didn't have Instagram or Snapchat. Your social media was hanging out at the mall with your friends. You could do a little shopping, eating, and a whole lot of hanging out.
You know what's so funny? I grew up in a weird era where by the time I got to that age, there's usually high schoolers that did that hung out at the mall. But by the time I grew up to that high school level, it was already the millennial. The millennial was already here, so nobody really did that anymore. They would still go do shopping and stuff like that, but not like they used to.
Parents would allow their kids to roam the mall by themselves for hours. Kids may still go to the mall today, but not quite as much.
Yeah.
If they hang out there all day now, they might accuse you of loitering.
Loitering, yeah. I can see that. Yeah, I remember looking at like TV shows and listening to people. People used to hang out at the mall like for all day long. I was like, I don't know how the hell y'all do that shit. That don't look fun at all. It was mostly the girls that would do that. It wasn't really guys doing that. Unless the guy had a girlfriend or maybe he had a girl that he liked and he knew that she was gonna be there.
Chickenpox parties were something that many people had long before there was a vaccine. Most people felt it was best just to get chickenpox out of the way so you wouldn't have to worry about it later.
Ooh, I remember when I had chickenpox. I can't do it. I can't do it, peeps. That shit is itchy as hell. It's itchy. If you never had chickenpox, shout out to you. But I had it and it wasn't good. And I think when I got it, did they have it? They said they didn't have a vaccine at that time. So they probably didn't have a vaccine because I got it. And I remember I had to stay home for 3 days. Like it was required of me. Even though nothing was wrong. Literally all you would do is just break out in these red bumps. And they would just itch. And they tell you not to itch them.
If one kid started showing signs, then it was time to gather every other kid who hadn't gotten it for a good old-fashioned party.
Oh, I remember hearing about this where if you had like brothers and sisters and stuff and one of you got it, then you all would just basically just continue playing like you did and just realize you're going to get it too.
The PG-13 rating didn't exist until July 1st, 1984.
Oh,
Prior
dang.
to that,
Okay.
they got away with a lot more. People realized that there was a huge gap between PG and R. If you take a look back at the movie Airplane, which was PG, you'll understand how wide this gap was. The movie was filled with a lot of adult humor in it, and it even showed some nudity. On August 10th, 1984, the action film Red Dawn starring Patrick Swayze and Charlie Sheen became the first ever PG-13 movie to be released in theater.
Dang. Charlie Sheen looks young as hell. he look like a Chad. That's crazy. Charlie Sheen, Jennifer Grey, I don't know her. Patrick Swayze, okay. I don't know now.
Over the last 40 years, there have been many changes, not just in technology, but in regulations on what we can and cannot do. Most of the younger generations do not realize how many changes have taken place during the 80s and
Listen, I want y'all to look at the prices of that. I would tell you that back in my time, a fillet of fish was only like $1 or something. French fries, I know large French fries. So they did have something called supersized French fries, but the large fries usually was like $1. But if you got like a medium fry, it's like 58 cents, 60 something cents. A hamburger was $1. A cheeseburger was like $1.10. There was no bacon cheeseburger, so but you could. Uh, it depends because not all McDonald's had bacon. So if you could get one of them to make you a bacon cheeseburger, they usually would go ahead and add it on, just no charge. But
have continued to do so. I hope you enjoyed this little walk down memory lane. Thank you so much for watching.
okay.
Why don't you come up here, Pumpkin?
Oh,
What are you doing, Larry?
here we go.
Vince, I've asked my
The best
pumpkin to sit
commercial
on my
ever.
lap to prove a point. And what is that, your Larryness? Even if we fasten our safety belts, even if you hold on tight, even if you were watching the road, in a crash, your pumpkin will be nothing but a squash.
You could learn a lot from it.
There you go.
Use child safety seats.
We love that little pumpkin to pieces.
Okay, Joey, it's a wrap.
Hi, I'm Joey Lawrence if you need a break. After I'm done here, I get a ride home. But the thing is, I will only get into a car with someone who wears their seatbelt.
This is what we call PSAs.
You see, kids like me usually do what the driver does. If they don't buckle, we don't buckle. Sounds pretty dumb, huh? But it happens, just like accidents. Give a kid a break. Buckle up. Your life and theirs is in your hands.
Woo!
Drag it down, blow that smoke all around, dragon lady. Dressing fine, acting cool, wanna share your
This is what they used to do back in the day.
smoking fool, you know it just ain't cool. Girl, where you going with that dragon breath? When you walk in a room, no, they can't stand the fumes. Ooh, dragon lady.
This is a PSA to stop smoking.
Tell me, baby.
Because at the time they was trying to, because they found out that smoking causes cancer and other bad things, so they used to run all these little PSAs to let you know that, hey, other people don't like this, and and they was trying to change our mentality socially.
Why you smoke that trash? Why, girl?
So you see everybody's expression like, what the hell?
Can't you see what you are? You're a drag, yes you are. A message for you and me from the American Cancer Society.
Yeah, don't be a dragon lady. There you go. All right, peeps. Yeah, that was the 80s. So yeah, that's my life in general sense, peeps. I don't know what to say. I said I didn't grow up with dramas and traumas. I mean, literally everything I just showed you was things that I could relate to. And I even shared some of my little personal stories of things that related to all that. But yeah, That was the 70s and 80s. Anyways, all my 80s babies out there, let me know what you think. Let me know if you experienced some of this stuff. Anyways, I am out of here. Y'all take care. Peace. I am gone.